Hello and welcome back to Beer with a Brewer. We're actually looking at rebranding. And so from here on out, this shall now be known as Cheers from Afar. But the point of it is just we're going to sit down with some people and enjoy some beers and go from there. So today we've got Bill and Dylan. So Bill Given and Dylan Bressy, and we're going to be talking about our Democracy series, which is a Belgian IPA. So this is the sixth version of the Democracy series. And why, we'll start with you, Bill, then we'll move on to Dylan. But why do you think we were interested in having beer with you guys in particular, and this beer?
Okay, so if I could go with a little bit of a theme just on a guess, democracy and the fact that both Dylan and I have been elected.
That's, you have anything to add to that, Dylan?
I was going to say because the label is orange, and orange makes you very happy, and seeing me always makes you very happy. Bill's is probably a better answer, but...
Yeah, so the Democracy series, it's a beer that, it's a series of beers that we let the people vote for what they want. And like Bill mentioned, he's our current mayor and GP, and Dylan is on city council. So they were both elected to what they do, and we're going to enjoy a beer that was chosen by you guys. So a bit of an aside, like I'm pretty interested in politics. I'm not at all an expert by any means, but I'm under the impression, like the way I feel about politics is that the smaller the region, the more specific you can get to doing good for your constituents. So, you know, like being in a city, being a part of the city council or the mayor of the town, you're able to do more specific things to the needs of people in Grand Prairie, whereas like provincial and federal government kind of have to do a little bit more blanket or umbrella things for their constituents. But we'll start with you, Bill. What are some things that you think really make Grand Prairie like a unique place? Like, what are some of the things that either we do or things that you would like to see done that are really specific to our area?
Yeah, well, you know, one thing that I'd say that makes Grand Prairie somewhat unique is our relative remoteness. There are a lot of cities in our province that are sort of similar size to Grand Prairie. We have a group of what we call the mid-sized cities, and it is cities and towns that are over 15,000 in population. And so that's everybody excluding Edmonton and Calgary, but not the sort of smaller towns. And a lot of us have similar issues. But one thing that I really notice a difference is as Grand Prairie, we're kind of, you know, we're not in a metro area. We're not a part of the Edmonton capital region. We're not a part of the Calgary region. We're sort of off on our own. And there's only a few cities in our province that are like that. And I think that that really lends itself to a real independence up here. And I think historically you kind of see that. We've used a lot of different words to describe that over time. You know, there's sort of the pioneering attitude or the entrepreneurial attitude or an innovative spirit. And I've always thought that those things kind of have a similar meaning in that the people that are here realize that we have to do things ourselves because there's not always somebody that's going to come and, well, there's often not somebody that's going to come and save us. We have to rely on our friends and our neighbors to get things accomplished. And I think that that has really come across in sort of the spirit and the attitude of the community. And you see it in lots of different ways. So I think that remoteness and being sort of the largest community in our region, but being far enough away from a much larger center that we kind of have to do things for ourselves has really led to a really unique spirit in the community. I don't know, Dalen, what do you think?
Well, and yeah, I see something similar in terms of I think that our remoteness and our role in the region creates a lot of opportunity in this town, which is something I love. An interesting fact is Grand Prairie in our region has about 1.5% of the population of Alberta, but it's typically got about 5% of the full-time job opportunities in Alberta. Oh, wow. So it's about 3 times easier to get a job in Grand Prairie as it is elsewhere. And there's tons of opportunity for career advancement and work in Grand Prairie. But not just that. We've got There's lots of opportunity for recreation in terms of we're a couple hours away from the mountains. We're also really close to this prairie grassland. And so if you want to do that kind of outdoor recreation opportunities in remote areas, you've got that. Within the city, we've got awesome facilities for athletics, including the 2 best disc golf courses municipally owned in Western Canada. But we've got any kind of outdoor sport recreation you want. We've got one of the best volunteer theater companies in Western Canada. We've got one of the biggest free admission art galleries in North America. We've got an awesome brewery and a couple awesome distilleries and an awesome donut place. And there's opportunities to do things like that. We're also a community where if you want to get involved in the community, whether you want to run for council or you want to get involved in nonprofits or you want to start a neighborhood association, if you just want to make your neighborhood or your community better, there's opportunity for new people and young people to get involved and have an influence. And I love that about our place.
You know, and yeah, so two things. First off, when are we going to open these? That's actually the main. And then I just wanted to build off this idea. But should we crack these now and
let's open them? Yeah. No, you go ahead and open it, and then you finish your thought, and
sure.
We'll have a chance to have some sips.
Well, so what I was going to say is, you know, between Dylan's answer and mine, oh, what a bad pour. And Dalen, maybe, you know, as we go through this, you could tell me how to pour beer properly. But, you know, between Dylan's answer and mine, Dalen, you obviously think a lot about branding of the different types of beer and the names that you come up with for them and everything. You know, the city's brand, we did a brand exercise quite a few years ago. And the little tagline that came out of that, that's on the city's business cards, was resourceful spirit, growing opportunity. And I think you kind of, you know, heard that explained by both Dylan and I, not intentionally, I should add. But it really, I think both of those ring true. There is a lot of opportunity in Grand Prairie. And the people who are attracted to this place have that spirit, whatever you want to call it, resourceful or entrepreneurial or whatever. And I think that sort of really rings true in terms of a brand of what this place really, what makes it special. It's those two things together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, cheers from afar to Grand Prairie.
Oh,
Cheers
Dylan.
from afar.
Okay, mine looks more like Dalen's.
Yeah, I
did mine.
I was also a little aggressive, eager to drink as well, and rushed my pour a bit. But while we're having our first few sips, I'll just explain a little bit about the style. So for the democracy, for the 6th version, you guys voted for a Belgian IPA. So if we were to submit this into a BJCP sanctioned judging awards show, it would be under 21B, which is specialty IPA, and then the subcategory would be Belgian IPA. So they're typically fruitier, they're spicier because of that Belgian yeast, and they also finish a little bit drier, again, because that Belgian yeast attenuates a little bit further. So if you're into Belgian beers, think like a Belgian Tripel, but with a little bit more hops. And so this one we threw a mix of North American hops into it. Some of the more prominent ones being Comet and Mosaic. And so that was our intentions with the beer, but what are your guys' thoughts?
So I'm not usually an IPA guy, to be honest with you. Whenever I look at anything, you know, when I learned what IBUs were a bunch of years ago, that was like a new window into the beer world, because I went, oh, that's why I don't like certain things. So something that was a 60 IBU typically wouldn't be something I'd buy. But I have to say that this one actually, it doesn't the bitterness that I would, you know, doesn't last a long time, which is a bit of a surprise to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for me, I'm not usually an IPA guy. I'm a Stouts and Porters guy, but I'm also a sucker for Belgians of any sorts. And for me, I freaking love anything Belgian, and I don't even really I know that Belgian flavor. I don't know anything about it other than I like it. Mm-hmm. So, is that just the yeast? Is that all that makes a Belgian beer? Is the type of yeast you're using?
Yeah, typically when, like especially with us at Grainman, whenever we're branding something, if we're branding it as like an English beer or an American beer or a Belgian beer, I mean, we're obviously just located in Grand Prairie, and so we don't when we produce a Belgian beer, it's not like we're bringing in, we're not brewing it in Belgium, but for us, we use that determining factor by the yeast that we're going to be using. So this would have been a yeast that would have been prominent in that area, and so that's why you get a lot of those same flavors, pear and pepper. And so yeah, whenever we're at branding a particular beer, if you see that it is kind of differentiated by location, that's the yeast that we're trying to portray, just because that is it can definitely adjust the flavor of the beer. The same malt bill, the same hops profile would be a very different beer with an American or clean yeast or an English yeast that's a little bit more fruity.
So do you actually bring in different, like, do you bring in different yeasts and use the same underlying hop? Like, was it a Belgian yeast, or are you replicating a Belgian yeast?
Yeah, so we order all of our yeasts from different labs, and so different breweries would submit their home yeast to these labs, and then the labs would propagate it and build it up and then sell it. So it would be like a Belgian yeast that we're purchasing, essentially getting we call them pitches. So we're getting a pitch of Belgian yeast for this particular beer. And so back in the day, they didn't really know that yeast was necessary to make beer. So they knew, if they make a sugary liquid and give it enough time, it becomes a little bit funner. But now that they were able to figure out that you do need yeast, the yeast consumes the sugar to produce that alcohol. They're able to take different regions and find why. And I mean, it's a bunch of different things. Not only is it the yeast, but it's the malt and the hops and the water as well. But yeast is one of those things that we can take a taste of Germany or a taste of the UK or a taste of Belgium and add it to the beers that we're producing.
Yeah. So can I, just speaking of, you mentioned alcohol and for a strong beer, so this is 6.5. And for a strong beer, it isn't particularly boozy. Like, there's some of them that can, once you start to get up there, they can start to be pretty heavy. This one doesn't lean that way. I mean, I know it's not 9% or anything like that, but it is actually, you wouldn't really notice it.
Yeah, definitely. And alcohol, and even like how you mentioned the IBUs, like the bitterness, all of those things can be disguised when we're building a recipe. So as a company, we really prefer, we do prefer some outlandish beers, but with a beer like this, we prefer to do something a little bit more balanced. So the spice and the pepper and the dryness of the beer, it's not way out there. The hoppiness is restrained. It's apparent, but it's balanced. And the alcohol, like, even though it is a 6.5, a little bit of a stronger beer, when we do the recipe creation and the brewing process, we're able to do a few different things to, I guess, like, not necessarily mask the alcohol flavor, but by using a different type of hop to add a little bit of fruitiness, it can disguise that burning flavor that you can sometimes get with alcohol.
That's great.
Yeah, so
I know
go ahead.
I know your beers are dangerous to me, Dalen, because you hide those high alcohol ones so well.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's only a 473, so it's a perfect middle of the afternoon beer. But yeah, there are a few that you need to be a little bit more careful with. But yeah, this is like I said, it's our Democracy 6. It's our most recent Democracy beer. We have it available. You can get it for delivery or pickup. Actually, just did a count before we signed on, and we've got 25 4-packs left. And then that's it. So if you want to try it out, get your hands on it as soon as you can. We're selling it for $17 for a 4-pack, and we'll deliver it right to your door. And yeah, I just want to say thanks to you guys for joining us. I know you're you're all very busy people, and we definitely appreciate your thoughts on GP and your thoughts on the beer.
Thanks, Dalen.
Well, thanks, Dalen. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.